Live from Kennedy Space Center, we continue to watch Space Shuttle Atlantis. It is backed out of the vehicle assembly building. It will be making a 9.8-mile trek to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. There will be an informal ceremony that will be held here right outside of the vehicle assembly building and near the orbiter processing facilities. This is not something that will be carried live on NASA television, although you can see a crowd gathered around. But these are workers who have been very close to Atlantis over the years, both from NASA, United Space Alliance, and other contractors. It's an emotional day for the workforce at Kennedy Space Center. It's the last time that a space shuttle will be on the grounds behind the gates of the Kennedy Space Center, where shuttles have been processed and prepared and launched for flight and returned for some 30 years. Many of these workers have been on Team Atlantis, who have worked with the orbiter Atlantis for many, many years. Not only were they involved in preparing it for flight, but they were involved in preparing it for display, because after the shuttles returned from their final flights, a great deal of safing needed to be accomplished to remove hazardous chemicals and other dangers that could present a problem for the public in a confined environment of a museum. So this workforce that knows the shuttles better than anyone else and knows how to perform that type of work performed the safing and then restored Atlantis and the other shuttles to the condition that they're in, so that they look like vehicles that have been to space and come back. The shuttle fleet on display across America is really a great opportunity for people from around the world to experience the history and the accomplishments of the space shuttle fleet. Many have said that the shuttles are no longer flying, but their mission is just beginning. It's the new mission to educate and inspire a next generation of space explorers. And here at Kennedy, the complex that has launched every American into space since the beginning of human spaceflight is transforming itself for the future. That vehicle assembly building that once processed only space shuttles, and before that Saturn V rockets for the moon, is undergoing extensive renovation. Decades-old wiring has been removed to be replaced with fiber optic cables. Platforms that were installed specifically to process the space shuttles have been removed. The vehicle assembly building is going to be capable of processing multiple rockets and spacecraft, both NASA and commercial spacecraft. This venerable building that was constructed in the 1960s by a team that had foresight is able to be modified once again, as it was after the Apollo program, to take Americans into the future.
What are you guys doing?
NASA is developing the Orion spacecraft and the Space Launch System, which is a crew capsule and a heavy lift rocket that will provide an entirely new capability for human exploration. Designed to be flexible for launching spacecraft for crew and cargo missions, the SLS and Orion will expand the human presence beyond low Earth orbit for the first time in more than 30 years and enable new missions of exploration across the solar system. And as Atlantis begins its roll away from the vehicle assembly building, 6 astronauts and cosmonauts are living and working aboard the International Space Station, a tribute to Atlantis and the Space Shuttle fleet. The space station, constructed over many years, is a working laboratory in space, 365 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's now focusing on science and research, because we have learned through the Space Shuttle and through its many missions with the Space Lab and Space Hab payloads and mid-deck experiments, we've learned that space is a unique laboratory. And in low Earth orbit, we can see problems as they develop, whereas on Earth, we don't see them until they're fairly far advanced. Science is somewhat accelerated in space. We've learned an awful lot because of the Space Shuttle program and the International Space Station. And not only are we preparing for future missions now beyond low Earth orbit, but we're working with commercial partners who one day are going to take crew to the International Space Station and already are taking cargo as they create a commercial space industry. So the end of the Space Shuttle era is the beginning of the next era for America's human spaceflight programs. And the orbiters will be a testament to all the hard work that the shuttle workforce here in Florida, in Houston, and around the country has performed for many, many years.